Hello, welcome back to episode 2 of the Bright Brains podcast. This is your host, Isaac, and today we're talking to Ganesh Datta about India, technology, and internet marketing. Today we have my guest, Ganesh, and he is a citizen of the country of India. Uh, Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Ganesh. I am, as Isaac said that I am from India, and by profession, I'm a digital marketer. I have a podcast called as Sapient that I run. Apart from that, yeah, I'm just like a regular normal Indian.
All right. Awesome. So, what do you feel Americans should know about India?
So, on my podcast and on just in general, I talk to like a lot of Americans on a regular basis,
Hmm.
and I feel like like people talk about diversity so much these days that like in movie there needs to be more black people or Asian people or Hispanics and all these things, and I feel like people are not open to that conversation. Like they just
Hmm.
pretend to be open, and when things really like come up, then all of a sudden they are seen as like ignorant. And I see this problem throughout like the Western world, where
Hmm.
people are just like, okay, if you don't know about something, you're just ignorant. And
Hmm.
I'm like, that might not be the case, because I have like made friends in America, just sitting here, right? That is in India. But somewhere it feels like, it's not like ignorance as such, it's just that they don't have access to that information.
Hmm.
So I feel like, like just us having this conversation um, is going to like lighten your audience about what is India. Yeah, that's my one of like things.
Yeah. Yeah, Americans, we can be kind of closed-minded. I think out of all the countries in the world, Americans travel the least, you know. And then we also have the problem of like the media. Like I feel like our media kind of fear mongers a bit, and they kind of portray a lot of countries in like the worst manner, especially like countries that aren't like white or majority white, like
Yes.
I know like recently with the whole Ukraine thing, like where there's been so many countries in the world that have like wars and things like that, and nobody cares. But
Yeah.
then when this white country goes to war, we give them billions of dollars. But
Hmm.
I digress. So you said you're a marketer in India. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I know India has made some like great like strides with like in the tech sector.
Hmm.
Um, is that like in the sector in which you work at? You work in internet marketing or?
Yeah, so I am a digital
Hmm.
marketer, so I deal
Hmm.
with online marketing, branding, and all these things, like just boring stuff. But India is like a major tech-based country right now, and it
Hmm.
it it just has always been, and we were able to compete with China initially,
Hmm.
because you see in China there is a resistance to learning English,
Hmm.
and of course English is like a major language all over the world,
Hmm.
and somehow Indians, because we were colonized, or you know we were fucked over by British.
Yeah.
um yeah, we picked up English very quickly, and that kind of afforded us a chance where we can be the tech masters of the world, kind of thing. Because even me, I run my own brand called a Socia Strat, uh, and majority of my clients are not in India, like they are from United States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think that language where we could just learn new language very quickly.
That's
That's the one thing where it helped us in just like servicing the whole world in terms of tech.
hmm Yeah, India. What is India's population? I think they're the second most populous country, right?
Yeah, currently we are 1.7 billion, 1.73 billion.
Oh wow. Yeah, so you know, was it easy for you to get into the tech sector in India, or was it something that you like had to like really work your way to get into?
So the interesting thing about that is, um, like I have studied accountancy, like I'm an accountant by, my degree or
Hmm.
what I studied for. But I switched very quickly when I thought, okay, this is not my future, so I need to shift my thing.
Hmm.
So in terms of hopping on tech, it's not really that hard in India,
Hmm.
because you have almost all tech companies based in India now, Microsoft, Google, whatever it is. So that kind of helps also because we have like second highest um, software engineers in the world.
Mm.
So that also helps because because there is so much labor that is in supply. Tech companies have to come to India and like, and also because I think in India it is so easy to open a business right
Yeah.
now, at least post 2014. It has been very easy. Like if you wanted right now, you could open a business within 2 days, like all
Oh
the
wow.
paperwork done.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, and you would not have to even visit an office. It's all online.
Oh
And
wow.
you just fill out the form and they will send you the details. Then you can just start your business. It's
Huh.
like that. So it's that easy and that quick. So yeah, lot of like international companies are also based out of India right now.
What's the entrepreneurial scene like in India? Do you have a lot of young
Oh
Indians
yeah.
starting their own businesses or
hmm The
yeah?
kind of startup environment we have right now is like crazy
Hmm.
because just last year we had 15 unicorns. So,
Oh wow.
if you're aware, a unicorn is a company which reaches $1 billion in valuation.
Oh wow.
And we had 15 unicorns just in last year. And year before that, I think it was 20 something. It's just crazy. We have so many startups here because I come from a city called as Bangalore.
Hmm.
Bangalore is like the Silicon Valley of India, let's say.
Hmm.
And it's heavy out here. It meaning, like there is like startup almost in every houses now. Yeah, because the environment to start business is so friendly, and also government has also decided to, okay, you know what, we're going to support this particular movement. So they are giving out, benefits and, tax holidays for new companies where you could just start your business and just run it. So yeah, right now like startup scene is like heavily like competitive right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, here in America, you definitely see a lot more people like starting businesses and things like that. I think it's kind of uh out of desperation, just because like inflation is getting higher and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm curious, what are some like obstacles that you think young people, I know they said they've made it easier, but
Yeah.
like what are some obstacles that people do face when they do start a business?
Okay.
Um,
Mhm. Okay. As a business owner, I think I think the biggest hurdle that a person can have is knowledge.
mhm.
Like I could give you $1 billion and you could burn that in 2 to 3 financial years. Like that's not a
Yeah.
big deal. And companies do that. And that's like the biggest problem. That's knowledge. And I'm not talking about knowledge of product or how to do product development and all this BS. I'm just
Mhm.
talking about understanding basic economics of business.
Mhm.
I mean, because people bring emotions to business, and in today's world, that's a dangerous thing because like just people in general on Instagram or on Facebook, they love good stories, but what they're forgetting is good stories don't make good product,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Good
Yeah.
processes, good companies make good product rather than stories. You need to have quality ingredients, quality raw materials. If you're manufacturing, if you're servicing, you need to have good human resource who can work with your clients properly.
Mhm.
And oftentimes people concentrate on everything else. That is how my brand looks, what's my logo, what's my t-shirt going to be, and all these things. Just a second. Sorry, that was my dog.
It's all
Yeah,
right.
so so yeah, like knowledge is one of the biggest like hurdles that anybody can face.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also if you want to like talk about practicality, like what is stopping them from opening a business is just funding, to be
Yeah.
honest. You know, I think
Hmm.
everybody could start a business with like $1,000 if they wanted to, but that the initial $1,000 is very hard to save up if you are working like very hourly kind of basis.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are the two biggest issues, knowledge and funding.
Is it possible like to get like a loan from a bank in India, or is that like or is there like an obstacle for that, or is
Hmm.
it easy to do, or is it something that people don't want to do because of interest rates or things like that?
Hmm. So one thing great about like current scenario is government itself is giving like startup loans for people where
Hmm.
you just go there, you just say this is my concept and I want this much money for it, and they have industry specialists look into the business, and they say okay, if you ask for let's say $40,000, they'll be like okay, you know what, I think you can do with 20,000 or 25 or $30,000, and they will give you a loan for that much money, or they will give you a line of credit, and you don't have to pay back for like 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 years. You don't have to pay back.
Oh wow.
So you just earn the money first, and then you can start paying back. And that's why kind of private business loans are in danger, because government itself is giving loans out and saying, okay, if you have an idea, just run with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's pretty cool to know that your government has your back like that. I'm
Hmm.
curious, what do people in India think about like the current like economic and political climate in America?
Hmm.
I know obviously you can't speak for everybody, but like what's
Yeah.
like the general consensus?
So the general consensus is, it's like quite opposite to United States what people in United States think, because
Hmm.
back when Trump was there, where everybody was calling him out names. I don't know whether I'm allowed to cuss on your podcast or not. Um, where back when everybody was calling him names, he was actually doing proper work in international like politics, and
Hmm.
people all I don't know why people fail to understand that, because that's just so visible. you know he went to Middle East. He brought so much stability out there. He visited countries like India. He came here, and
Hmm.
there was a stadium with I think 150,000 people, and
Oh
it was
wow.
not even like planned. It was like a 3 hour prayer announcement where he's just going to be there, and 150,000 people were there. And then Biden came in, um, and it was around, if you remember, it was Biden really came in around the time when Ukraine really kicked up, you
Hmm.
know, and the irony was the whole Europe buys gas and oil even today from from Russia. Even today, right now, they're buying oil and gas from Russia,
Yeah.
even though they are their enemies, right? And India does
Yeah.
the same. We do buy our oil and gas from Russia because they give it a better price. And Biden was like threatening India to put sanctions. And yeah, if it was any older governments, they would be scared. They'd be like, please don't do that. And now it's
Hmm.
like, like, damn you, like, we don't give a damn about it. Like, like, just
Yeah.
deal with it. We are here kind of situation. And then I think his policies also kind of changed towards India, where he's like, okay, this is a superpower, like I'm messing with. So I need to be like, responsible, let's say, as an administration. So recently, in like last like 1.5 years, we have seen that kind of positive intent from Biden, and right now he is in India. He's visiting India.
Oh,
So
he
yeah,
is? I actually didn't know
yeah,
that.
he is visiting
Huh.
India now, and like our prime minister also was out there in United States.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, relations are pretty good, but if you ask an average Indian what is going on in United States, they would say homelessness, poverty, and food shortage.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that, unfortunately, and it feels like nobody is like really trying to tackle that kind of thing. Um, I'm curious. I know also in India there is the issue of poverty. What kind
Hmm.
of steps has like your government done
Hmm.
to ease poverty?
So, the definition of poverty itself is kind of different in India. I feel
Hmm.
like because in United States, if you don't have a car, you're kind of poor. Like,
Hmm.
um, but in India, the thing is like poverty is like absolute poverty,
Hmm.
where a person cannot afford food or um, just basic amenities.
Hmm.
So, um, I think because of our family values, we don't have a lot of homelessness. Like let's say if you are my cousin and you run into hard times, you just live with me. That it's that
Yeah,
simple. Like there is no concept of at 18 a child has to like separate from his parents.
yeah.
So that kind of family values has kind of kept joint families going. So yeah, there is like poverty, but government has done few things, I think, where we have a few programs where we employ people, like they give them jobs, like manual jobs, developing towns and villages. And you don't
Hmm.
have to be really skillful for that. Like you can do digging, like just simple things, and you get paid enough. So yeah, poverty is there in India, but I think like in coming years, poverty is going to just go down in India.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know one thing here in America, the
Hmm.
homelessness is perpetuated because of our massive drug problem. You know,
Hmm.
like we have an opioid crisis and things like that, opioid, heroin, fentanyl. It's getting really
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is there like a drug problem at all in India? Is that something like people have to worry about or
Um, I don't think so because in India, we don't have rather easy access to drugs, at least
hmm
that we are good fortunate about. But there are states in India where I don't want to name them, but like they are having some kind of drug issues where like certain percentage of people are not like willing to work, they're just on drugs and all these things. But it is not yet like a pandemic like we see in United States,
hmm
or it's not like controlled by pharma, that kind of narrative.
yeah,
So that's the one thing. Like I don't, in India, it's not like a pandemic yet.
that's good to know. I'm curious, how did your country fare during the coronavirus pandemic? You know,
Hmm.
2020. Did you guys have to go in lockdown, and how did that work?
Yeah. So as I said, we are a very big country. We
Yeah.
are a lot of people. Yeah, we have too much people to be honest. But it's okay. Back in 2020, we were like 1.43 billion people.
hmm
Um, and even back then, we in throughout COVID, we had like four lockdowns of 15 days,
hmm
and it was
What's
like
a
very strict.
what's a food lockdown?
No, 15 days lockdown, four lockdowns.
Oh, full lockdown. All right, I thought
Yeah,
you said
four
food.
lockdowns of
Gotcha.
15 days each. So
hmm
that's kind of 90 days in 2 years.
Yeah.
And of course, there was like protests and like why are you doing this and all these things. But fortunately, India was one of the like early actors where we really saw it in other countries and said, okay, you know what, like let's shut this down and take this under control. And Isaac, you have to imagine that like country like United States, which has like probably like for 30 to 40 million people, right?
Yeah.
And even there, they're not able to mandate vaccines,
Gotcha. You
right?
said they didn't mandate them?
I mean, they're struggling to mandate, right? Because there are people
Yeah.
up in arms, and the biggest, I think, a senator was talking about it in Congress, where he was saying the reason that people cannot be vaccinated very quickly is of
hmm
logistics. Like we don't know how to set up so many booths and hospitals, and how does the process work, right? And
hmm
India, India as a country, we vaccinated 98 million people in just one day.
Oh wow, how'd they do
Like
that?
it's just like because we have a very thorough system where people like to follow rules. It's
Yeah.
kind of like anti-India if you really think about it, because people really don't like rules. But if there's a rule, people follow it. And government said, okay, you know what, like if you are not vaccinated, we will not allow you to movie theaters and certain places where we'll restrict your access. And a lot of people just took it, like they did not even think that much about it. And one good thing was like there was an app on your mobile phone where you'd have to register yourself. And if you get tested and let's say you are COVID positive, right? um
Hmm.
uh, like people around you will get a notification that someone around you has COVID, so please take precautions.
Oh wow.
So it's
Yeah.
like
I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say?
Mhm. So it's like there is that kind of government intervention in understanding disease.
Hmm.
And like, and also there was a time when we had like shortage of ventilators and all these things, and people were just home quarantining themselves, and government supported with food and all these things.
That's very cool. I'm curious, do people in India seem more trusting of their government than people in America?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
We don't even ask as many questions as like American people ask their governments.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of thing, because yeah, we are not like that much suspicious of government, because we don't have CIA trying to mess us over on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I'm
So
curious, like,
yeah.
what about like free speech and like freedom of the press? Is
Hmm.
how does that work over in India? Like, are you able to say like whatever you want, or is how does free speech work over there? Is that something you
Hmm.
guys have, or?
Yeah. So interestingly, like Americans like to talk about freedom
Mhm.
and freedom of speech and freedom to bear arms and all these things. Um, and it's not like because they're ignorant, as I said. They don't realize that India is like the biggest democratic country in the world.
Yeah.
And our exercise, that is the election every 5 years, it is one
Mhm.
of the most like, I think it is one of, I can proudly say that it's one of the most successful voting campaigns in the world. You
You say
see,
sexist?
most successful.
Oh, successful. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, because you have to understand, like, how people live in forests, people live in minute, like remote places, right?
Hmm.
And if there is even one person living in a particular area of even a forest, the commission or committee is responsible to set up a booth out there to
Oh
vote.
wow.
So if you just look at India's election day, like how kind of stressful and like logistically nightmarish it is.
Hmm.
I mean, you have to understand that people, like go on boats and elephant rides and just kidding, just like they go on like lot of hard work just to get like votes, just to say okay, please vote. And India is like very, very, very um open with speech. Like, the prime minister is called as Narendra Modi. His name is. I could say
Hmm.
fuck you, Modi, and like like that's that. Like
Yeah.
there is nothing that people can do about it. Yeah, India is like very open. And I would bet that we are far more open than most European countries,
Yeah.
because you see, India had this kind of obsession with freedom that people don't understand, because United States may be like 200 plus years old, we are just 75 years old. Like we are
Oh,
not that
really?
much old, right? We got independence around 77 years uh, ago. That was 1947. And it's that simple, like we are not been like free for 500 years or 1000 years.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, so we are very much obsessed with freedom. And one thing about Indians, I can tell you, is like they don't like laws intervention in things.
Hmm.
Like you cannot tell people to do not to do certain things because they will get pissed off and they will do the exact thing that you are asking them not to do. Yeah, so that kind of idea of freedom still is like still exists in India because we're so young.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because that's why even governments are very apprehensive in coming out with laws because they're like, okay, people might get pissed over this.
So 75 years old, I actually didn't know that. So India has come a long way. What do you think it is that has helped like India achieve so much in such a short amount of time?
I would say tolerance.
Yeah.
Indians are very freaking tolerant, dude. I can tell you that because just saying that the amount of criticisms that India has received in the past 70 years,
Hmm.
if United States received that much criticism, all new nukes would be out there right now. Like just
Yeah.
this world would
Yeah.
be done.
Yeah, I think you're
Uh,
right.
yeah, like they would be like, like fuck you. And, like honestly, like that would be the attitude of people. Isaac, but you have to let me know whether I can cuss on your
Hey,
podcast
you're
or not.
cool. You can cuss. Yeah, it's no biggie.
Got it.
You can
Got
cuss.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, like yeah, Americans would be like, fuck you and, just blow over the world.
Yeah.
Um, because we have been called names and, like a lot of bad things that has come our way. And you have to understand, Isaac, that when Indian independence came in, um, okay, if you have read like human history, there is a thing called a Silk Road. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I believe so. That's like a trade route with China, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's a road connecting India to Europe. Like that's the oldest um, uh, r- trade route in the world, you know,
Oh wow.
and that goes through Russia too.
Huh.
That goes through around, today around 24 countries in the world. It goes through those many countries, and because of that, right? Because we're kind of landlocked with Russia and even Europe to some extent, our policies and friendliness towards Europe and even Russia is very close. And when Indian independence happened, there was a part of our country that was taken that's today called as Pakistan.
Hmm.
Um, and because we had strong Soviet relations, because like Russia did support us during our freedom struggle and all these things. Very early on, United States kind of decided, okay, we are going to go with Pakistan, like we will support Pakistan. It's because of like proxy wars. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of proxy wars. So what are some examples of
Hmm.
proxy wars?
So proxy war is just like if you are a father and I'm a father, we both have sons. We just say you please beat his son. It's like that, right? Because I cannot directly engage with you. I'm going to
Hmm.
use smaller countries to engage with you indirectly. So, United States kind of decided that we are going to side with Pakistan in the struggle,
Hmm.
and that caused like a lot of friction, like way lot of friction that then people ever expected to happen. Um, so there came a point where like we were criticized for even breathing kind of thing, because you have to understand that India is also nuclear capable, and
Yeah.
our nuclear is not like international, like we developed it. And you would be like surprised to hear that United States threatened us with nuclear weapons when we were developing our own. They said you could not because it could fall into wrong hands when United States itself propped up Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like today's Afghanistan's problem is United States problem because they fucking created it in the first place,
Exactly.
right? Because today's
Yeah.
Afghanistan, like I don't think Americans understand, Isaac, that today's Afghanistan that you're looking at, it's the absolute open result of a proxy war between United States and Russia.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like there is no more. Like Taliban is what United States backed in the earlier days of Afghanistan conflict. And then they fought against them and they created $1 billion war industry, right? Industry complex
Hmm.
of how to fucking destroy each other efficiently. And they just it's like that. So yeah, India also faced a lot of issues. And like if you I don't think you might have seen it, but recently India put a rover on moon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Hmm.
Um, how do the people in India feel about that? Is there a large sense of pride about that,
Yes.
or do some people feel that, maybe the money could have gone to a better use? Because here in America, there are some people who are like, we don't need to spend money on the space program. That money would be better used, going towards the schools and, better
Hmm.
housing and things like that. So, how do they feel
Hmm.
about the accomplishment of
uh
uh, sending the rover to the moon?
so just for even you to make for me to make you an Indian, I would have to tell
Hmm.
you like the history of our ISRO, that is our space agency. People all over the world don't understand that. um let's look at NASA, right? NASA
Hmm.
has a huge fucking budget compared to other
Hmm.
space agencies. And NASA has this habit of throwing money at any problem. Like money fixes the problem is their attitude. And
Hmm.
bravo, because you have money, you can do that. And if you look at like NASA's origin, it's very dark. Like I don't think people really care about it anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but if you look at Operation Paperclip,
Oh
that
yeah,
happened back in the day, and that's
yeah,
the direct result of NASA, right, because
yeah,
if Operation Clip did not happen, a paperclip, there would be no NASA today. I am like
exactly.
100% sure about that.
You're right. Operation Paperclip, it was just they just took the Nazi scientists and said, "Come
Yeah.
here," and there was one guy, von Braun. I don't know if I'm
Yes.
pronouncing his name right, but
Yeah.
he was a pretty evil dude,
Yes,
and
he ran human factories back in Germany.
yeah,
And the proposal was, you come to United States, help us develop these missiles, and you might not go to the Gettysburg trial. Sorry,
yeah.
I
I know
don't
you're talking
remember the
about
name.
Nuremberg
Nuremberg
trial.
trials. Yes,
Yeah.
Nuremberg trials. And that was a kind of offer that United States gave. And they
Hmm.
had like 16 people 16 scientists who they brought to United States. And if you look at it, then NASA is not really American, it's just German. it's
Yeah,
just
that's
like
true.
it's just like beer.
Yeah.
you know and with ISRO, that was not the case, because from day one, like the godfather or the father of Indian space research is a guy called as Vikram Sarabhai. He's an Indian.
Hmm.
And he said that like space is really the last frontier that humanity has, and we need to be there. you know and
Yeah.
one interesting thing about ISRO is like we were never in space race.
Yeah.
We were never like in space race. And uh, we even till today we are not in space race, because India has this way of. So here is the thing, right? Our space agency always struggled with budgets, like they did not get enough money. And therefore the result was, you have to do the same thing that Americans or Europeans are doing at a, yeah, like smaller cost. And the Chandrayaan, the rover that landed on moon, just to like blow your mind away, that whole project was $70 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
and the rover sent by United States, not even to the South Pole, just on the moon, it cost them
Hmm.
$670 billion.
Wow.
You
So,
know,
so the Indian space program uses less money than the American space program, is what you're saying.
yes, because we have
Yeah.
8% of NASA's budget. If NASA has
Yeah.
$100, ISRO has $8, but you have to achieve the pretty much the same thing. And like one more like anti-United States factors back in the day when we wanted a vacuum engine. So
Hmm.
for those people who don't know, vacuum engine is engine that kicks in once you escape the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So the technology is quite different because there is no gravity to feed fuel. It needs to be staged. And when India went to United States asking for vacuum engines, they said we cannot give it to you because it might go into wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
And people can misuse it. And the response was Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He was our ex-president. He was a scientist. He said, like, okay, fuck you. We're going to build our own engine and we are going to work with it. And Indian space research organization's vacuum engine is one of the most efficient vacuum engines out there.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so the kind of pride that goes in India's like space is way different than NASA. And people will even say, for a country like India, $70 million is too much. And the budget of Barbie was $70 million. Nobody
Mm.
fucking questioned that. Like, where the fuck did you go? What did you achieve? You did not achieve shit. It was just entertainment and shits and giggles. And
Exactly.
you spent $70 million on what? On just
Yeah.
paying yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's not like you went to space and shot something. It's not
Exactly.
like it's not like you went to Mount Everest and shot a movie,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
I wish here in America, I wish we would spend more money on science and things like that,
mhm,
especially in terms of like combating climate change,
yeah,
which is a big concern among young people here. Um, is climate change a concern in India? Has it affected the country in any way, shape, or form? Or
I mean, climate change is taken very seriously here,
uh,
and yeah, like very seriously. And um, because we don't have like big farms out here, like United States, like you have beef farms, right? Where you
uh,
have thousands of cows and bisons. Fortunately, we don't have that, so there is not that much of greenhouse
gas? Yeah,
gases that is being produced on a regular basis. So yeah, like our problems are different than that because we have to deal with other things. Um, so yeah, like it's a very serious topic that people and government itself takes seriously. And we have had mega solar projects, solar, like, so if there is a small town, they set aside a particular land and they just install solar to run the whole town on it.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, like the efforts have been like very rapid and big.
Yeah, I know here in America, like the efforts to go green have kind of stalled. They're not doing. I mean, there's some. They're building wind farms and they're doing some solar things, but it's not what I feel they should be doing. I feel like we should be doing a whole lot more, but I feel like other countries are definitely ahead of us
Hmm.
in that matter. So let me ask you this. Let's see here. I had a couple questions written down.
Hmm.
So let's say there was an American who was moving to India.
Hmm.
What advice would you give him or her?
Just be open,
Mm,
like, and please don't bring your American privilege here
yeah,
because it's not going to be useful here. It's kind of useless because you have to understand that majority of Indians look like me,
hmm
wheatish and black and dark skinned people.
hmm
And if you're a white dude or a black dude, right? Like, for example, Isaac, if you came to India, right? People would
hmm
touch your skin and see because they're like, okay, I've seen black, but this is a different color of black,
hmm
right? And that's not them being like racist. That's just them being curious. They're like,
yeah,
okay, like, because then like a lot of people have not, let's say, they have not seen foreigners, right? It's so similar to um like an American looking at an Indian or any other like race, right?
yeah. I get what
And
you're saying.
yeah, so you have to open to conversations because people will just ask you like, okay, how are you so black? And you're like, oh my god, that person is racist. That person is not racist and he is probably more blacker than you.
Yeah, yeah,
And It's just people are curious out here, and just learn few things. You don't even have to learn language, um, but just learn our culture even a little bit, and
Mm.
that's going to take you so far. Um, and also Indians are very hospitable. Like I don't know whether you know some Indians or not, but
Yeah, I
Indians
don't.
are very hospitable.
Yeah. Most of the Indians, so I live near a college called the University of Cincinnati, and I've
Mm-hmm.
interacted with, they have like a large Indian population there. Every
Mm-hmm.
Indian I've come across has been pretty pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So where do you see India like within the next, say, 10, 20 years or so? What
Mm-hmm.
are some things you think India is going to accomplish? And also, like, what are some issues that India faces within that time period?
So in currently we are like fifth biggest economy in the world,
Mhm.
and people intend to be like best in the everything. Like that's just something that we are like India. Like even in sports, it's very interesting. We don't support those sports where we lose a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like fuck that, dude. you know and if you want name and fame and prestige, you need to win. And
Yeah.
that is so similar to economics too, because we are like we don't care like fifth or fourth. We want to be like third or second or first, and very quickly.
Mhm.
And yeah, like right now we are fifth largest economy in the world. And right now, as we speak, there is a international coalition called as BRICS, if you might have heard of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I've heard of
And
that. Yeah.
I see Americans making fun of it. They're like, yeah, fuck that. People have tried that before. Yeah, people have tried that before, but all the countries that tried before this were literal slaves of United States. Like they were running
Yeah.
on the money of United States. But right now, South Africa, if you look at, right? If you look at India,
Mhm.
if you look at China, they are not like under United States. They don't give a fuck about United States, and they do exactly what United States tells them to do. And that's the exact point that people are not understanding. You see, there used to be a time when United States was like a big brother,
Mhm.
but they decided to screw over every fucking guy in the planet, where they said, if you have oil, we are taking. If you have resources, we are taking, and you cannot do shit about it. And that's when people started to piss off. Like they were like, fuck you, like this is not going to work. And this BRICS thing that people are not taking seriously, like there is Iran, there is like 70% of the fuel, like uh countries that run on fuel, that export
Mhm.
fuel, right? They are on BRICS, and BRICS is going to create their own currency in order to trade, or they are going to trade in local currencies. And people don't understand like the importance of it, and especially Americans, because Americans don't understand that you're not living on your development, guys. Like I understand your audience might be Americans. I'm just telling, your country does not live on American economy only, right? Because there used to be a time when the base currency of the world was United States dollar.
Mhm.
And for every dollar that was transacted, United States earned a percentage of it, right? So
Mhm.
United States was kind of the master of this, international economy, right? But now, because these people, these countries are just deciding to go on their own currency, yeah, all this you can you I'm predicting like most of people will see like huge growth in these particular countries, because they're just off the drugs of United States dollar. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's a drug, and it's a threat. It's like Isaac, it's like this, right? You have 10 candies, and if your son misbehaves, you don't give him candy.
Mhm.
Your son has zero autonomous, capacity. He cannot do shit, right? If he
Yeah.
pisses you off, he's done. He's done for the day. And these countries are just taking away that ability from United States. And yeah, so in next 10 years, India will be a very, it's already, but it's going to be even more of a superpower to mess with. And
Yeah.
I will use this
Uh,
sentence that in let's say in 10 years, it will be very hard to ignore India.
yeah, I can see that. And the whole BRICS thing doesn't
Mm-hmm.
surprise me. I think the rest of the world is, pretty much tired of America's shit, and
Mm-hmm.
they're starting to rise up. So it's going to be. I think that we're looking at like a global shift in power. I think that America's, being a global superpower or the number one superpower, those days might be behind it. And I think China and India and Saudi Arabia might be the ones stepping up to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's been about 30 minutes. I guess I'll give you the final word. Like if you had to just, impart one thing on the American audience,
Mm-hmm.
if you want them to just know one thing about India, what would it be?
That Indians, by our hereditary DNA, let's say, Indians are
Yeah,
very tolerant, like absolutely tolerant. And that is something that's needed in today's world
it is.
because people are so soft skinned. I'm sorry that I'm using that language, but people are so fucking soft skinned that I
Yeah,
could call you black and you could call cops on me. Like,
yeah,
that the level of tolerance is just non-existent right now. And yeah, I would say just look at India, right? Because we have, and also, yeah, this one thing that America like tries to call themselves the cultural melting pot of the world.
hmm,
Like that's the biggest bullshit statement that they can produce out of their asses.
yeah,
Um, because we have had black people from Africa settle in India around 10th and 11th century. It's been like
yeah,
they have been here for 1,000 years, and they're just local people. Like they talk like me, they speak like me. They're just me, right?
yeah,
We have had white people, we have had Jews, we have had every other people who were oppressed came to India and settled and thrived,
yeah,
and there is a reason for that, right? And that reason is we were just tolerant and just welcoming. Um, everybody says Vasco da Gama discovered India, and I fucking hate that sentence because there are like literal clergic records showing transactions between Africa and India far, far older than Vasco da Gama himself,
oh
you
wow,
know. And I don't think Americans understand this when they say, Vasco da Gama is the greatest fucking sailor on the world. I'm like, no, fuck you, because okay, I think you might be interested in this. Like by mistake, he went to Africa,
hmm,
okay, and there
yeah,
was there was an Indian Patel there who said, okay, let me show you the way to India,
oh really,
and that was how he reached India.
huh.
It was not by mathematical genius, I can tell you that, and
Yeah,
that is not something that people really think about it, right?
yeah,
It is so similar to talking about black people in civil war. Like people absolutely
hmm,
hate it. They
yeah,
want that conversation, and
yeah,
it is so similar because there is a group of people who think that they are the most intelligent and the most sophisticated creatures in the planet, while they are the most chipmunk brained absolute assholes that they exists.
yeah,
And yeah, so in India, if you ever visit to India, you'll find two things: people are just kind, and people just don't give a fuck about who you are, what you do, and they just don't judge you because they don't have that time.
yeah. There's definitely something that Americans can learn. We could definitely learn to be more tolerant and more accepting. Maybe if, America was no longer a global superpower,
Hmm.
maybe that would allow us to sort of evolve and become more accepting and becoming more tolerant. Maybe it might be a good thing for us. I don't
Hmm.
know.
I think.
So that, well,
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Continue. Yeah. You're saying
no,
something.
you're good. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I said everything I was gonna say.
I think the states. If I'm not like like a predictionist or futurist, or I'm not even half intelligent as people think I am. But I believe that if United States really wants to be a country for much longer time, they need to get rid of this notion of a person is everything. Like
Yeah,
Isaac is very important. No, you're not, because you're just one of people in your generation who's going to work towards your country. People are so obsessed with I that they forget there is a country and the society that exists, and you
Yeah,
have a certain duty to the society. You have to be productive because that's your duty, right? And the biggest, and I always bitch about this, Isaac, to any American that I meet. I think the concept of retirement villages should not exist. It's
retirement
the
shouldn't exist.
retirement villages that you
Yeah,
see, those communities should not exist. That's the biggest failure of your society. I mean, if you have a son or a daughter and you took care of them for 18-20 years, they should also be responsible to take care of your last 18-20 years.
yeah,
And this concept of, my father was really good to me, he took care of me, but he got old and I don't want to take care of him, so fuck that. you
uh-huh,
know this concept of selective responsibility is bullshit. Like, people need to understand that.
uh-huh,
um cherry picking responsibilities doesn't work, and
yeah,
somehow staying with your parents is seen as bad. I don't understand how the fuck that can, like, that makes sense by any means, unless you're a douchebag, studying in a college. That makes sense.
yeah.
But as an adult in the society, that does not make sense.
Yeah, in America, like if you're still living with your parents past like a certain age, then like you're looked at as like a loser and things like that. Like America could definitely stand to become more family oriented and more family focused. Like a lot of our problems stem from that. Like a lot of poverty is because we have so many single mother households. Um, a lot of like homelessness is because people can't rely on their family and things like that. So the issue isn't really money in our society. We have
Yeah.
that where we need to become more. We need to become more community focused.
Yes.
There's been a breakdown in the American community. It's more about like me, 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 me.
Yes.
Screw you. I'm going to get mine. You know, and I think that if Americans came together and you know worked together to achieve a goal, we could do it. And I think the
Yeah.
only way that's going to happen is if there is some kind of like a shift in global power. Only then will people like start to think community wise. Um,
Yeah.
but that being said, before we end the conversation, tell people what was the name of your podcast again, and where can you be
Mhm.
found online? Like, what's your social media handles and things
Mhm.
like that?
Yes. So my podcast is called as Sapient.
Hmm.
So the Sapient is name of my podcast, and my podcast is so similar to you.
Yeah,
Which I just talk to interesting people that I find interesting, and they're just genuinely good people. And my conversations are like 2 to 3 hours long.
yeah,
So if somebody is cooking or somebody is cleaning and they want a long-term contact, long-term things to exist, yeah, just give me a second. Just give me a
all
second.
right.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I just talk to interesting people, and if you're cooking or cleaning or just driving, you need something to listen to. That's where
Yeah,
my podcast comes in, because we are so open, and we are just like good. And in terms of social media, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is geniusly_decisive.
awesome. All right then. Hey, well, this is a good talk with. I learned a lot.
Hmm.
Thank you for your time, and you have a great day
Sure.
or
Take
night.
care. Yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah. It's kind of morning. Yeah. So great day.
All right.
Yeah. Take care.